Hey, hello again, everybody. Welcome back in. In this video, I'm going to be talking about Fenris, which is the new marksman from the Northern faction that is being introduced into the game this weekend. He will join the likes of Lynx, Maul, Brunner, and Harpoon. So he is the 5th marksman now that is part of this faction. Before I go over the test that I did and where I think he might be beneficial to some accounts, we're gonna go over his skills and his awakenings really quick. The one thing that I can tell you is that if this guy is shielded, he will gain a 1 range in his attack. So that actually kind of plays into that piercer mechanic a little bit. So if you can team him up with somebody like Elder or King Hearts, or bring in a Soldi if you can, just to make sure that you can get that added benefit. His basic attack and his comic burst also inflicts slow on enemies, so at least they'll give you some time to make sure that you can bring everybody that is coming at you. His basic attack deals 120% damage to up to 5 enemies, and it does prioritize airborne units. And then his comic burst passive is he will, when enemies enter his range, he initially will target somebody. That enemy gets 400% damage, and then there's a scatter of 300% damage up to 5 that are around that target. And of course, this is on a 10-second cooldown. His Honorous Bow is when allies in his range that are in the battlefield gain a shield, they will gain a rage regen of 1% rage per second. So this is actually very big, especially when it comes, if you team them up with a northern composition. All right. So anytime that we can boost the rage, it just allows us to come back to the ultimate a little bit faster. And as you can see here, fully skill, it is 500 to renew. So you can come back to this really quick. It only lasts 2 seconds. It's a burst of damage that he does. So you get this knockback that is about 2x. He can target 10 enemies with it, dealing 800 AoE damage and inflicting stun on them. The hero also gains a shield equal to 50% max HP for 10 seconds. So that's another benefit there. The Awakening. So this one, you know, they're not as impressive, but I think that they suit the hero well, and you can take advantage of this. His Undying Will also grants allies in range a shield equal to 20% of their own max HP. Now, is their own max HP? It's not his HP, so we can't stack the HP on him. It has to be those that are around him. Now, if we surround him with somebody like Broker, it will be a very big shield, and then keep in mind that then that shield will give him rage regen as well. His A2 is not, he doesn't gain attack from it. It's actually his cost is diminished by 3. In his A3, now here's where things get interesting. You can kind of start getting that benefit that we see with Maul, which is the Comet Burst inflicts defense reduction on the enemies. On his A4, he will gain penetration, and then his A5, his damage multiplier for the Undying will increase by 300%. Now, for my purposes here, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to link the damage test that I did with him in Drake's Chasm, because that is a location where I can kind of get an idea of what the best gear set is going to be for the hero, but also gain an understanding as to how each artifact behaves with each one of the heroes. So if I were to build this hero, it would be on Soulbound Arcana, and actually is because of how fast he comes back to his rage, and his ultimate behaves differently from his basic. So you definitely are going to gain a little bit more damage if you use Soulbound Arcana in a long extended fight, and it's the best set that I found to work for him. There are other things that you can do if you want to benefit, if you just want to use him as a CC and just allow others to do the damage for you. If you want to, you can put him on a mana spring set. You can just come back to this ultimate and the knockback and the stun as much as possible. But for the purposes of the demonstration today, one, I just wanted to kind of show you the damage overall, and then also where I think he might come in handy for any account in the game. The other thing too that I have found is that when I was doing my testings, is that I did take several of these artifacts, and you'll see it on that sheet. And essentially what it was is that I tried the Sharpshooter Crest, I tried the Claw, and I also tried Spirit Siphon. in the end, and because of how the mechanics of each artifact works, Spirit Siphon actually led to him getting a little bit more damage in that outcome. And so that's exactly what I decided to go with. And we're going to keep him in that for any demonstration that I am doing in this video. So here we are in GR3, which is, I think that this is going to be one location where he will definitely help out, whether it's in the initial stages between in the red stages of 13 and 18, you can put them on each side, or in 19 to 21, you can use them here in this left-hand side. So here in this clip, what I'm going to show you here is I'm just clearing things out for him because I just want him. So as you saw with the little icon showed up, it was the sharpshooter's crest, just to give you an idea. So here we go. We kind of hit him a little bit. You can see the initial basic attack is 67,000 based on the gearing that I gave him, which for this stage is hard. And he's definitely taking him over. So when I activated the ultimate, then you can see there 541,000 I was getting out of them from each one of these hits. Even though the ultimate describes it as an AoE hit, they look, at least, that is what's going on. It's an AoE hit. Now, let me go a little bit further, and then I'm going to show you now what I saw with the Spirit Siphon. Okay, so now here I'm setting the things up. You saw the little icon dead with the Spirit Siphons, and so here are the basic 67, same as with the Sharpshooter. And then essentially what happens now is that when I get a chance to activate the ultimate here, so let's see, and no, it didn't go there. Now it's going to go. Come on, now it's going to go. Okay, so here we go. Multi-strike hit, and there we go, 602. So I'm getting a little bit more oomph from the Spirit Siphon. And I'm wondering, even though it's coded as an AoE damage, I wonder if this is just multiple hits happening at the same time to multiple units. And so the way that it's coded then allows for something like the Spirit Siphon to get us more damage than something like the Sharpshooter. So essentially, at least for this first, is number one, GR3 is definitely going to help out in terms of you trying to clear this. And then number two is, if you're going to give him an artifact, try leaning Spirit Siphon if you have an extra one when you do decide to use them. Okay, so for this demonstration here, to make sure that he wasn't really blowing things out of the water, we can actually see him in action, especially for, let's say, a mid-late account that is trying to push into 19 and maybe 20 and 21, just to at least figure out his utility here. So essentially what you can see here in the test server, I have this Night Terror set, and I give him very, very low stats, and it isn't that heavy. I think that these are stats that you can probably encounter here, and then with the fact that I'm using a plus 25 artifact, I kind of make things makes up for it, right? For what possibly an account like that could gear him. So I crit cap him, 231 crit damage, like decent speed, 300, and then 12,000 attack. So this is like a bare version of him, okay? So essentially what I wanted to come and see here from the perspective of what everything that plays out does. So here I am just clearing the boss. So here I am, we're placing him down. So you can see here his Cosmic Rift taking effect because he is targeting one enemy, and then he does the damage to the other the enemies beside him. And then there is the AoE damage as well that he is doing with this basic. So everything is coming into play. So here what I wanted to do is I just wanted to get an idea. Okay, so if I go ahead and strike him right now, you can see the amount of damage that he did, especially for an account like that, and then the stun that he applies to everybody. So he kind of can then make sure that the things are controlled in a sense. And then eventually he gains that shield that I was telling you about, and then because I brought in Elder as the Lord, he will then also get the shield that Elder then drops on him. But that there is kind of what you can kind of perceive from him with those kind of stats, what he could possibly do to a wave of this size. Okay, so for this part here, what I did is I wanted to place him one tile back because I want to give the Marklings the opportunity to advance and come rush at us. I also kind of stripped him down a little bit too. I only left him one piece of jewelry because I didn't want him doing too much damage. I essentially wanted to test back this knockback and this stun that he does, right? Because if they are coming at us, when they are coming at us, I want to see how much time is that going to afford people for the opportunity then to maybe wait for an Hydro's ultimate to come back, or just to give them the enough time that they would need in order for them to bring down this wave before they rush through while they're trying to clear the stage. So they're coming there, they're coming rushing at us. I wanted to see, okay, let's activate the ult. You can see not too much power, but we can we have some of them alive. So based on where it hit, it knocks him back, and now we gain the stun. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it does afford us at least the opportunity to try to catch up and make sure that we do have more time to bring down that wave. So that's why I think that in some aspects he will be a little bit better than Maul, but if to get more power out of him, then after that you need to get him to A3, right? So you can get that defense reduction. But the way that he's doing with the amount of damage that he can do, he does outscale Maul a little bit. So there's kind of a balancing act going on here on which one you want to use. But eventually, if you do have him, you would try to use him to clear GR3. So you are have a good hero that can do that multi-strike and then bring down those Merklins. And then later on the much heavier wave that comes after that, you should be able to control it just as well as you do with the Merklins. Here's another area where I think he will help some late game accounts, especially those that are trying to push into 19 through 21 levels of GR2. You can see here in the back that I have him team up with a Soldi in this type of setup here that you can use to try to clear GR2. So let me just fast forward here. I'm not going to take you to the whole run because some of you might know this trick. And then essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to set things up where we can now have to contend with the waves. So here we go. Here are the golems. So we're going to let the golems do everything that they need to do, and the Garner guards do whatever they need to do. And so I'm going to wait for everybody to get in his range. So we don't have a shield yet, so we don't get the extra range. So I'm waiting. I'm just waiting for everybody to get in. So here we go. We're going to boost with Dolores. And now we're going to hit them. And there we go. Clearing them out. Perfect. The defense here is low enough where you can do that. And I did not show you the bill. I can show you the bill at the end here, but it's a very stripped down version of it, especially for 19 and then subsequently for 21. All right, so let me set things up again. We're going to go in the second wave. So here we are in the second wave. So we're setting things up again. And now I'm going to bring him in for that second wave. And we're going to boost him with Dolores. And here we go. As soon as everybody is in range, I'm going to activate it. All right, let's see what he can do. Can he clear it? Yep, perfect. He cleared everything out. Now we can get ready for the boss. So there's the shake. And now that we're here at the end, after the rage is exhausted, we can put things down. We can set up with the healer, bring in another damage dealer. And if you want to bring him back to finish it off, let's go ahead and finish him off. Just the boost, Wrath goes off, he goes off, he finished things off, and there we go. So yeah, so that's the way that I see this hero being used. Is in things like gear raids where you're gonna be able to help you in terms of clearing stuff out. Remember that in gear dungeons, as you go higher into the levels, you do not you can control, right? You can't stun the sycophants. There's immunity to it. So in there, I think he loses a little bit of utility. Also, his cost, if you don't have him at A2, is a little bit too high for that. So I would still rely on the greed. If you want to try to use him instead of a greed, you can try doing that, but he's a piercer, so I wouldn't use him there. So yeah, so stick to your Marys and your Greeds for Gear Dungeon 1 at least. Now, here, the other area that I want to kind of to see what he could do, and especially because people I think are going to be somewhat intrigued as to whether he could actually be capable in Arena. So what I did here in the test server, we have the new version of Arena. So anything after wave 4, we essentially start getting damage reduction, all the healing that we have to deal with, etc., etc. Or here in wave 3. But essentially what I did is I put him back in that Soul of Arcana set. I wanted to kind of give him a little bit of juice with Dio-Chan. I just wanted to see if, besides all the control that he offers, whether he can really would help us in terms of bringing them down and try to do the amount of damage that that we need for this. So he essentially, from what I was seeing, and I'll keep letting things play so you can watch this stuff out. But essentially, what I can ascertain from him is he'll definitely help you in terms of control if you can get that ultimate to come back really quick. So you can at least allow for the other units that you bring to do the damage that you need to finish it off, in a sense. Okay, so the heavy waves are going to come here at the end, so I'm trying to provide him as much help as I can here. So let me go a little bit forward here, something like this. So this is going to be really hard for AoE Arena to try to cover if you don't bring a lot of AoE. So, I mean, the single target hitters are doing their job. He's doing decent. It's not bad. But when we need him to knock back, so the amount of damage that he does is not heavy. But if for the CC, allow us time to push things back and allow everybody else to do whatever they need to do, he's definitely helping with that. And he's applying slow, right? But there's he doesn't have the freeze, which allows a little bit more time. His rage, he can definitely gain him back pretty quick to try to help us out with all of this. So here we go, we knock it back. We didn't really put down that bar. He kept the bar that he had, but we were able to CC him. So okay, so let me go down. So here's the last wave. This wave is really not only fast, but it has a lot of defense, a lot of healing. We need to cover it. So here we go. We're going to afford our friends the opportunity so you can see that knockback. Now they have the stun, a little bit more time for everybody else to try to clear this. So, he's not like a great damage dealer. I would rather depend more on Kai and Nyx if it would be to that extent in terms of helping me clear waves. But if you can team him up with other heroes that can just wipe things out, and he then could be a great crowd control. And of course, the other thing here to keep in mind too is that I did not bring him in with the Lord, so he's not getting the shield. That's so aside from the one that he gains. So here we go, very heavy wave here at the end. So he's trying to do as much damage as he can. He's trying to knock things back, allow the others the opportunity to get him. But at least in this type of circumstance, it is just too much for him. Definitely too much for him, especially for the cast that I brought him in with for this single targets to try to clear this. It wasn't enough. So, and then at the end, when everything is said and done, I didn't really use Solace for this, but you can see here that the single target hitters at the end ended up doing more damage than he did, him being an AoE damage dealer. So in this regard, I will say this, that he has a specialized kit to deal with waves, to slow things down, to control them. But to in the downside of things, I would say that he doesn't really provide that damage burst that we need in order to clear something like this up, right? Now, this was an A0 Fenris. If I were to bring him to A5, sure, maybe he can do a little bit more damage. But based on what I saw in the testings that I did with the Awakenings, we were only gaining about, maybe 30%. So it wasn't that much, all right? And we're getting defense reduction, yes, with the cosmetic tree. I understand all of that, but he's not going to do anything in this type of setting here. So overall, my assessment of this hero is, number one, he's a fun hero to play with, especially if you want to bring in that utility of stunning people and having that AoE. You just got to make sure that you're going into stages with very low defense, where that's exactly where he is going to excel. But in the scheme of things and how this hero, depending on the account that he is added on, will probably have different values to it, right? So if you get him early, mid game, going into late game because you're trying to get into the 19 to 21s, he will help you a lot, okay? Especially if you are able to get the Northern Lords into your accounts early. So if you're lucky enough to have a Soldi, I would definitely then use him in that context. Aside from that, the other utilities or the other game modes that I see, maybe early arena, maybe he'll help you there, but then after that, he'll fall off really easily. Once you get into Plat 3 and Overlord, he'll lose utility there. Maybe there's some tricks that you can do to try to use this crowd control to make sure that you then allow somebody else to try to do that damage burst that you need to clear things off. But the way that the new arena is shaped up to be, you really need everybody to contribute to the damage, because otherwise those monsters will just heal too quickly. All right. And then lastly, for GvG, we cannot test things here in the test server with GvG because unfortunately locked it out with the season changing. So the best way that I can tell you, at least from what I've observed, is that even though, maybe there's something that you can do in terms of the crowd control, but especially with the stun, maybe if you're desperate to try to put a team together. But the problem is right now is that for the Overlord players, if you're not in Plat 2, right? If you're not in Plat 2 lower Plat 3, the majority of the players in Plat 3 Overlord are going to have too high of Demon Soldier affiliations. And so it's going to be really hard to give up that space just to see things, right? So I don't see him, at least on paper, I don't see him as a viable GvG unit, okay? But you never know. There might be a comp that comes down in the future with other set of heroes that might be rolling out with him after, that might make him a little bit more competent with GvG. Test them out there, see what you think, see what he can do. But unfortunately, I don't see him having too much of a benefit in that content. So yeah, so he is essentially a very late game type unit. Any account to the late game, he will help you push gear rates. That's what he's meant to do. The utility that he brings in with his crowd control is similar to Maul. So that's essentially what you can see. It's just a step up from Maul is essentially what's coming down to. Thank you all very much for tuning in and watching. I will see you all in the next Watch Over Realms video. And please do remember to hit like and subscribe on your way out.